Hey, M3 family, it's yours truly, Samantha McCray, also known as Officer Tony of the Samuel Lee Tony Senior Foundation, here with you for another incredible episode of M3 Live, where we feature Black professionals to share their expertise with you, our beloved Black businesses, to help you continue to flourish. So, before we get started, let's not forget to share some exciting news from Melanated Money Mondays and the amazing things they are doing in the low country of South Carolina and beyond. We just celebrated the launch of our new website and the M3 app. If you are a Black business owner, make sure you visit the new website to subscribe and join their Black business directory. Monthly subscriptions are just $20, y'all. $20 a month. And annual subscriptions are $189 a year. So don't forget to also download the free, I'm going to repeat that, free M3 app to your mobile device, available on Android and Apple iOS devices right now. So, with that being said, let's introduce our expert for this show. Today, we have with us Nesha V. Frazier. If you have ever told yourself that you can't reach your goals because you don't have what someone else has, then today's guest is going to get you all the way together. All the way together. Nesha V. Frazier, she's here today to help you find the courage to turn your obstacles into opportunities. Come on, y'all. Obstacles into opportunities for success. So our topic today is courage and confidence building for entrepreneurs. And I'm so excited, so excited to talk to Nesha today. So Nesha, welcome to our little show, our little abode. And we're excited to have you. So I'm very eager to dig straight in. Okay, so the first question that we have for you is, what led you to this topic? What struggles have you had with self-confidence and courage in your business?
Yeah, I love that. Love the introduction. Thank you so much. It was so good. So this started for me as kind of a walking divine download that I like to say from God, where I was just out and about minding my own business with no intention to do much else than what I'd already accomplished. Prior to this, I had a brick and mortar business, a co-working space for babies in the low country area. And it started to accumulate some level of success, but like a lot of people who don't match their outcomes, sabotaged my success, right? And so I took this break and really dug deep into what it was that led me to, reach the goal, but ultimately never fully realize it. And God gave me courage hackers. God gave me do what you do in all other areas and just live into it and lean into it. And so I started talking about, launched a podcast, started talking about courage and confidence and self-belief and all these things, started to attract different opportunities and speaking, and started working with entrepreneurs in this way. But Sam, the short answer is I really got fed up with playing runner up in my own life, right? Like getting to the finish line and pulling up right before I get there because I didn't believe that I was good enough or worthy enough or deserving enough of getting across the finish line like so many others. And that's really what started this.
Wow. That's powerful. I think myself and a lot of entrepreneurs watching this can relate to that, and it's very key because you got to believe that you're worthy of where you're going, and you have to also be able to visualize it too for yourself. And I'm guilty of that. I myself, I've had business suffer just because I didn't feel like I was worthy to be where I was. And so everything you're saying is resonating, at least with me, and I'm sure with our audience right now, which is really, I'm excited to hear more from you. So that leads us into our next question. How does someone struggling with their own personal self-confidence find success as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I love this question so much because I chose to redefine what success meant for me. So my personal journey, my personal transformation went from someone. I always lead with telling people that I come from a family and in a city where we have more prison sentences than college degrees, right? Like I'm first gen college grad, first one to go into the military, first one to do a host of things, right? And I had no proof of any level of possibility that I wanted to accomplish in my life. I don't even talk about this a lot in entrepreneurship, but you can only go but so far without partnership too, right? Like the right level of support. And I'm grateful to. I have 4 small kids, but my husband and I have been together 8 years, 10 years married tomorrow, right? And I've never fully been someone who believed that any level of success was possible for me because I didn't come from success. I didn't come from anyone who earned more than $40,000, anyone who'd been married more than a couple of years, anyone who had traveled outside the country. Like, why would I be crazy enough, right, to believe that what would make me so different, right? Like nobody else did it. Why would I be special? And that was the narrative I was telling myself for the longest. And so I went on and accomplished different things, but I didn't accomplish them. That roadmap didn't happen just because like I affirmed my way to success, right? Like we love to do that. We say like, oh, I'm gonna write 100 affirmations and I'm gonna write it down and it's gonna happen. No, that's like part 1, step 1, right? Like that creates this very hollow belief about yourself. And you can't go forward until you are willing to go backwards and identify the things that stopped you. Because ultimately, how you view your life is reflected in the results you have in your life, right? And if you don't like how your business is operating, how your relationships, how you get support, how people show up, how people communicate with you, chances are you are attracting that because there's some level of identity you have with that you haven't been willing to acknowledge. And so it's really this hard, ugly, uncomfortable look that you have to look at yourself and not just say, oh, I desire a 6-figure business, I'm a 7-figure earner. No, it's like, yes, that's the thing I want, that's the outcome. But what I know to be true about success is a self-love journey. You can have all the things outside and just hate yourself, right? And you will sabotage you because you never aligned with the outcomes, right? I know this to be true because I've done it plenty of times, but it's really about looking at what it is around your life and does your current circumstance in your business, in your life, does it match who you see yourself as? Chances are it probably does, and you're not willing to acknowledge that. And if you don't like what's around you, you have to be willing to consider what is it that I not just want, but who do I need to believe about myself? What do I need to believe about myself? And what do I need to do to match that, right? And Sam, I say one of the big things that a lot of us aren't willing to say is that often these results we have around ourselves are a reflection of the standards we have about ourselves, right? Like you are willing to accept whatever is around you. That's why you have it. That's exactly why you have it the way you have it. And you've been willing to not only accept the thing, you were willing to accept the chaos and the stress and all the other things that came with it because you just felt so lucky that it happened, right? I know that was my story for a long time. And so it's like that specificity about what it is you want, but like physiologically, like emotionally attaching to this thing and being specific about what that looks like, because it's now aligned with who you are and what you believe you're worthy of and what you believe that standard is of a person who's worthy of those results. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I'm just like downloading as you're talking, because a lot of it is conditioning us from when we were very young. And I remember my pastor talking one Sunday, he said something that stuck out to me. We all know the phrase, you reap what you sow, right?
Absolutely.
But sometimes literally reversing the words will make it hit different.
Ooh, yes.
And so he said, you reap what you sow. But he said, let's take this and say it a different way. And he said, you also sow what you reap.
Yep.
And so if you put good in, then you'll get good out.
Mhm.
But if you're not getting good out, you got to look at what you put in. And that's
Absolutely.
kind of what you were saying, is that
Yeah.
identifying what it is. And I know early on in my career, in my other business, I was encouraged by a mentor of mine, a business mentor of mine, to have a mirror talk. And we
Absolutely.
all need to have that mirror talk. We need to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and be 120% honest with who we are and what we currently at that moment believe about ourselves. And
Mhm.
then try to, like you said, track that down and figure out where it comes from. And that is where I found out that the reason why I self sabotaged some of my success years ago was because I grew up and didn't realize that I had a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And that scarcity mindset makes you believe that you can't have but XYZ, or
Mhm.
it'll be taken away, or it'll go away. And I know Steve Harvey even mentioned that. I watched him talk about that. So, like, a lot of us, and you look at the economically, how we are as Black people, and how most of us or some of us have grown up, that scarcity mindset is very common amongst our people, and it can almost be a commonality of why we self-sabotage ourselves in the business world. So everything you're saying is right in alignment with me, and I'm sure we could turn this into a hour-long show
Listen, we
just
can turn
talking
this
about that
up
one
all the
piece.
way up. But
Just
it's
talking
true,
about
and
that one piece.
I love that you said that about the mindset and the scarcity. There's so much research around self-image and self-identity. I'm no psychologist. I'm not equipped to say this. I just know from my own due diligence, right? Of this idea of who we are, this self-image that we accept, our self-concept starts in these early years of our lives, like 0 to 7. It's not like when you listen back to a lot of adults. I've learned this from coaching enough individuals, right? You listen back to enough adults and you ask them why they have the pattern they had, right? The thoughts, the action, the feeling that reap the results that they had. And if you ask them who gave you the belief that this is the way you're supposed to navigate your life, this is the way you're supposed to talk, this is the way you're supposed to think about money, around communication, around relationships, who gave you that standard? A lot of times it's something that they inherited that was passed to them as a child. It's rarely someone saying, well, when I was an adult, when I was in college. No, it's like almost always someone saying, well, my mom told me this, or I watched my dad do this, or I have this memory of kids talking to me about, like, it's almost always this deep rooted abyss of like this experience that we didn't even recognize was going to attach itself to us in our adulthood, and it did.
Mhm.
And I think the only way that you can really like get out of this shell and get in front of this thing is to see where that was, where it came from, disarm this thing. And like you said in the intro, it's like it's all about witnessing these things that were perceived obstacles, right? And see them like, oh no, this is going to be the reason that I get in front of the people I'm supposed to be in front of unapologetically, you know? And I was hiding behind this because I was afraid, right? Like I was afraid that I was too bold, I was too loud, because people told me I was too loud and I was too bold when I was a kid, right? People tell one of my greatest struggles that I have is largely around like I was a tomboy my whole life and I never wore dresses because of something somebody told me, right? And now I'm like, the image of the person, the Nesha you see today, recently cutting off all this hair, is a reflection of a new standard I have for myself that disarmed a belief I had from a childhood memory, right? Like I held on to that thing forever. And now I'm actively disarming it. And there's so many of us in a Black community where we hold on to some of these accepted beliefs and accepted self-concepts, and you don't see how it presents itself. And like you said about Sam, though, mirror talks, I do take it another level, and I actually record my mirror talks so I can look back at them, right? Like I pull up my phone and I have decades worth of mirror talks in a cloud somewhere, because I know the power of witnessing how you speak to yourself in a neutral capacity, which is often like if you pick up the phone and you listen to how you talk to yourself when you're through that experience, you're going to realize how toxic your internal talk is, right? Like you can't see it when you're in it, but if you record it, you're going to see like, really, I was talking about stuff that way. You know what I mean? So I've learned the power of that to have more confidence and courage in yourself and how you show up. You know.
That's awesome. And, you know, you were talking about just being able to basically have that self-seeking moment. But to be able to self-seek, you have to actually spend time with yourself.
Hmm.
Come on,
Hmm.
somebody. So,
Come on, somebody.
um, you know, one thing we tend to do as business owners is we get so busy just in the grind and
Yeah.
in the trenches of building our business and maintaining our business that we don't spend time with ourselves anymore. We lose track of that self-seeking, those self-seeking opportunities. And so that leads me to my next question. What do you think are some of the most counterproductive things that Black businesses do to their self-confidence?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Distractions, right? Like
Hmm.
I have learned to witness distractions as in so many ways, you know, so you may be battling something subconsciously that you're not even aware of consciously, and you distract yourself so that you can avoid feeling it, right? Like it's your way of self soothing because you don't want to feel and you have no words for it. There's power. I know you know this. There's power to giving something a name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't give it a name until you consciously recognize it exists, right? And I think it's the fact that, like you said already, is we distract ourselves instead of just learning to the thing about raising your standard, this self-image about yourself, you're going to increase your standards. And when you increase your standards, you get better about your boundaries. You get better about who gets access to you. You vet people differently. You vet experiences differently, right? Like you don't have to just sit and willingly accept all the things that come to you. And when you feel in control of yourself, you know that, right? You now feel
Yeah.
empowered to say that while I appreciate it, I don't have to receive this, right? Or maybe I'm all the way off and I am giving myself permission today to say I decline respectfully this opportunity that seems like a great opportunity, but I'm not in the right space to prevent my own sabotage, right? Like I need to sit with
Mhm.
myself for a little bit, right? I think it starts with acknowledging the fact that you are distracting yourself, but you have to understand where the distraction is coming from. You have to give that thing a name and
Mhm.
identify what is it that I'm running from. And I grew up in a way that I now can see it in my adult life and how I show up, that I felt like I was always outrunning certain things. Like I was staying busy all the time because I was just like, as long as I keep moving, I'm going to be able to, you know, avoid it. As long as I stay forward, I'm not going to have to deal with it. As long as I see emotion, right?
Mhm.
And then one day
Mhm.
life hits you hard, such as having 4 kids
Mhm.
and having to navigate all the things, or having medical things that take you out of uh,
Yeah.
off the table, or having a loss of a parent or a loved one. And it's like you are forced to sit because you can't run anymore. You
Right.
can't run anymore. So it's like eventually this stuff catches up with you. So why not, instead of being at the mercy of life and the things that are outside of you that you have no
Mm.
control of, why not set an intention, right? Because you have this standard, and this new standard for yourself recognizes that there's a gift in giving yourself permission to pause and reflect. There's
Mm.
power in that. I don't have to always
Mhm.
run, and approach it with intention instead of being at the mercy of when it happens, because it's going to happen. We know this. It will happen. It will catch up with you. So why not just get ahead of it? You know, and I think that's, you hit the nail on the head there. And I'm just elaborating a little bit further on exactly what you said.
Man, that's powerful because you said something that hit me right here. You said, "Let's not be at the mercy of life," you know, and I've done that too, you know. Oh man, just last year I had a life-threatening injury that sat me down for over 6 months,
Mm.
and I had to come off the police, well, not come off the police force, but I had to sit down. That's what had to happen. I had to sit down because I was at risk of paralyzing myself from the
Mm.
waist down if I didn't listen to the doctors. And during that time, I had a lot of time with myself to really do some self improvement and read and just work on me. But it shouldn't be at the mercy of life sitting me down. And I've had so many opportunities over my 12 years in business, where literally God, my higher power had to sit me down.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. Like you said, there's power in us initiating that.
It is. Giving
Because
yourself
if
permission.
right, because if we aren't well, then that's the whole point of today's show. If we aren't
Yeah.
well, everything else is going to suffer, not just our business, but our
Mhm.
family, our health, and you can't run a business if you're not healthy. You can't run a business with peace if your family's falling apart, and so you have to really start at the source, which is ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, this has been powerful, powerful,
Yeah.
powerful. It's
I love
amazing.
that you say that, and it's such a. I tell you the other side of it because I would often hear there's a gift in not being too far removed from your own experience. I think your own personal transformations that you can speak to it in a way that can speak to people. You know what I mean? Where a
Mhm,
lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, 10 years ago," and I'm like, "No, honey, I was there last season."
mhm,
And there's a gift there, and I think it's empowering to be able to share with your audience what it also feels like. On like we can come together on what it feels like to be stressed and overworked and overwhelmed and feeling at the mercy of our business or if you have clients, and you're still trying to have a life and have a human experience. We know what we can come together on that experience. And then we all may know what we need to do. But I think there's a gift in sharing what it feels like when you do it, right? Like when you prioritize yourself, maybe for the first time ever, that was my case, and declare that you are worthy. And the greatest gift I gave to myself, Sam, of all the things I could have done for myself, the greatest gift I gave was in 2020. I had a conversation with God and I said, God, what is it? Like I said, I felt like a runner up in my own life. God, I get so close to this finish line. And then I just pull back, like I'm not there, like I'm there, like God, what
mhm,
is it? Right? And I heard clear as day, you don't prioritize yourself. To love yourself is to love me, right?
mm,
Clear as day,
mhm,
I heard it. And it was from that day on that I decided to no longer be available for the narrative that I don't have time for myself. Because I was someone who would pour to my detriment, right? Like I would pour and pour and pour. It was just I having a higher threshold for stress and a higher threshold for risk than a lot of people around me. I hold space for people in a way a lot of people don't get to hold space for. So it felt like an honor to do it. But I would never hold space like that for myself, right? And it was like God told me, I heard it. I wasn't negotiating with it. I heard it clear as day. Like I am no longer available for this narrative that I told myself all my life that I am too busy to take a break. People need me too much, or I got too much on my
mhm.
plate, right? Like I'm not available for that narrative any longer. And that's that standard. That's that new baseline. No longer available for it, right? It's a gift to
And
give yourself that.
and that's man, that there's a lot to unpack there too. I wish we had more time because one thing you said is just sticking out to me. Like I personally identify myself as an empath. And sometimes, as an empath, it can be hard to put yourself first because we can sometimes feel like that's selfish of us. And so there's a very thin line there. And I think, that you have to kind of rest with identifying that it's necessary, you
Yeah.
know, and you giving to yourself is you being able to give to others,
Mhm.
is you being able to do for others. So I mean, man, that was girl, we should charge for this.
Yeah, girl, I do. You welcome to. No, I'm playing.
This is amazing. So with that being said, what a joy it's been to have you, Nesha. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your expertise with the family. I want to ask you if there's any final remarks or things that you want to share.
Yeah, the final thing I would say is that this world is loud. And,
Mm,
you know, whatever you believe to be your enemy, like some people say the devil, some people just say like a person, whatever that is, like they love
mm,
being distracted and too
mm,
loud to hear yourself. So find a way, like the simplest path forward to listening to yourself again, like hearing your intuitive voice, because you are connected to a divine intelligence that literally always has the answers if you can hear it, you know? And you just have to be willing to like just remove these distractions. So that's the parting wisdom I would say, is getting back to courage and confidence is all about trusting yourself and listening to your intuitive voice and removing all these filters. So find the simplest path forward to get back there.
Wow, that was worth the price of admission right there too. So you dropped some heavy jewels on us today, and I thank you so much again for your time. I want to let our family know that's watching that unfortunately that's all the time we have for today. But we will see you guys next month for yet another brilliant discussion with another Black expert. So thank you to everyone who's tuning in, and feel free to keep the discussion going in the comments. When you watch this, post your questions. I'm sure Nesha would be in the comment section following up and happy to further the conversation with you all. But Nesha, if you want to give them a way to reach you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I have socials. I'm always on LinkedIn. Nesha V Frazier, the V does matter. And my Instagram is Courage Hackers, COURAGE, Courage Hackers, right? And just find me there. Drop me a DM if you have any thoughts or questions that I can, work through in the comment section or work through in a DM. I always am available for that. Always.
I like that. Courage Hackers, easy to remember. So our audience that's watching, our family, share the show with others, share this video. We'll catch you next time on M3 Live. Samantha McCray signing off.